All right, welcome back to the podcast, everyone. Between two barbells, I am Alex Charles with my co-host Tatum McCann. Together, we compete in strongman and Olympic weightlifting, respectfully. And guess what, Tatum? Today we are going to get into it.
I'm terrified. And it's respectively.
So Tatum has no idea what we're going to talk about today because she has been disconnected from the outside world of strength sports, most likely. So,
Sorry, I have a life to live and chickens to take care of.
well, today we got a doozy. um, so Tatum, I want you to tell me if this is your pet peeve. This past weekend at the official Strongman Games in the Open Women's Heavyweight division, so World's Strongest Woman. If you win this competition, you are classified as the World's Strongest Woman. At the end of competition day, we found Jamie Booker on top of first place and Andrea Thompson, well-renowned strong woman athlete, has done her time in the sport. I believe this would have been 7 years in between her titles as World's Strongest Woman. The kicker of this, Jamie Booker, transgender.
We're not doing this.
No?
Not a chance.
All right. So today we are going to talk about the recent events that happened at the official Strongman Games 2025. Before we get started, congratulations to all the winners, podium finishers, and the people that have achieved their goals. Getting qualified for this competition is a feat in its own, and making the finals is a huge accomplishment in the world of Strawman. So, for those that don't know, the official Strawman Games for the women's and the weight class men's Strawman, that is their world's strongest title, respectfully. Over the weekend, there was a lot of controversy about the open heavyweight women division, with Jamie Booker taking the win on competition day and Andrea Thompson coming in second, followed by the rest of the women's class in their respective order. With this, the controversy is that Jamie Booker is a transgender athlete from male to female. In pictures, you can clearly see that she has a significant height advantage. She is able to put on more weight and be able to perform at a very high level. After doing some deep dive into Jamie Booker, this is only her third ever competition. So huge feat of strength to qualify, to make the finals podium, but this does come with controversy, and I wanted to bring this up because we are a strength sport podcast. So for those that don't know, and Tatum yourself included, since you don't know how this kind of works in Strawman, and we can get into the gear, the steroids, and all this stuff that is very present in this sport. And so under Strawman Corp, I have no idea what the official Strawman Games is. You have to test your T levels to compete in the women's category if you are a transgender athlete. This is to promote fairness in the sport, legitimacy, and to give them the opportunity that they, in my opinion, deserve to compete in sport. However, my kind of opinion of how we completely avoid this is that we develop the transgender area and give them their own weight class and give them their own time and their own effort to compete against one another and really showcase what they are capable of in sport. What do you think about all this, Tatum? For our listeners at home, Tatum had no idea that I was going to bring this up today, and this is going to go very, very wrong or very, very right.
It's gonna be so good. It's gonna be so good. That's fine. Okay. I like to choose my words carefully because I like to think of myself as a fairly reasonable person. However, no, I'm gonna think of myself as a fairly reasonable person. I personally, as a competitive female athlete, the AFAB, I have no issue competing against trans women. Like, not in the slightest. I think that there are a lot of things already in place when it comes to testing T levels and you're on hormones, and there's been a lot of evidence showing that when you are doing hormone replacement therapy, the amount that it continues to affect your ability to put on muscle mass and all of those like physical components that biological men have an advantage on over biological women, those by and large go away once you've been on hormone replacement therapy for a certain amount of time. Which,
Hmm.
by and large, in order to meet the qualifications to compete in a number of sports, again, I'm strongman is not like where I am most informed on this, admittedly, so I could be wrong on some of their regulations. But
Hmm.
by and large, there's a minimum amount of time that you have to be on hormone replacement therapy, as well as certain like T levels that you have to be under in order to compete with women when you were born biologically male. Someone meets those qualifications, I got no issue. They beat me,
Hmm.
they're a better athlete than me. Like,
Hmm.
it is what it is. There are lots of better athletes than me. I understand that her name is Jamie,
Yes.
is like significantly larger, taller, whatever. But like respectfully, so is like half Thor competing against other dudes. Like what's the difference there? To me, I think that like a physical advantage in sport is kind of how sport works. Michael Phelps had long little arms and like he was a better swimmer. That's like a physical biological advantage that he was born with. That doesn't mean that he doesn't deserve to swim against other people. He's just better than them because of it. And I
Hmm.
view that like basically the same way.
Okay. Um, Obviously with weightlifting, um, it is a tested sport, right? And I really do want to get into this. Um, and hopefully someone out there can comment if we're just talking out of our asses at this point. Um, because I'm not nearly as qualified to talk about steroids as other people out there. Um, but do you think that with gear and steroid use, performance enhancing drugs, whatever you want to call it, do you think that there needs to be that extra level of kind of testing done to incorporate fairness? Because it's like, yes, and don't get me wrong, my opinion on this is that everyone deserves to be in sport. I think that there should be a men's class, a women's class, and a transgender class. Just to put it out there and be very, very blunt about it. Um, but I do believe all people have the right to showcase what they are capable of at the world level, amateur level, whatever that may be. But getting back to the steroids, do you think that there needs to be an extra level of testing or something done to incorporate fairness?
Are you saying that like because strongman is an untested sport already and people are running whatever they want because it's untested, does it even matter if they're doing the extra like T level testing
Exactly,
for certain
because
women athletes?
yeah, and I think this is something where when this topic got brought up, this was a very kind of getting pushed underneath subtopic of like what how much gear is Jamie and Andrea running, how much gear is seventh place running, how much gear it, are all these ladies running. And again, that's not to take away what they're capable of. They're incredible athletes. They're athletes that I know I haven't gone to the world level. You've only gone to the national level, so we are not undermining them in
No,
any
not in the
sort of way.
slightest.
Yeah, they're incredible. They're really fun to watch. I would say that they're more fun to watch than the men's classes at times. Most of the time, right now, especially like from the pros down to the amateurs, because it's so close points wise. But when this stuff comes up, we have to talk about it.
Yeah. No, I think that some degree of testing is still viable. I think it gets a little bit complicated and you have to have a little bit of nuance in this conversation because even women blasting a ton of gear, when it comes to T levels, they're not going to be anywhere near where biological men generally sit at. Like, there
Mm,
is such a huge difference in the amount of testosterone in your body when you're biologically male and
mm,
have your hormones running regularly. And like yeah, recently we've seen like a huge dip in overall T levels of men across the board and that's a whole other conversation where I'll go into crazy conspiracy theories because I
mm,
will go into crazy conspiracy theories. I've got like 40 ones. Just we're just coming at it.
mm,
But I think there's like a huge gap in between where even women blasting like a ton of gear and not women blasting a ton of gear and where like men naturally sit.
mm.
So I do understand having to be like, okay, we should probably be sitting somewhere in a reasonable level of like where that sits. At the same time, I think there was a, I believe, and some details of this might be a little bit off. There was a biologically female, like born female, track athlete who
Hmm.
just naturally, with no gear, no anything, naturally, and had been recorded throughout like her entire career, sat with like elevated T levels above what was natural for women to have. She just had like high testosterone. And
Hmm.
because of that, there was a huge thing where I don't think she was allowed to race at the Olympic level because she just naturally had elevated T levels. Like no gear, no anything going into like boosting that. That's just like where she sat. And I think that's messed up.
Hmm.
I think that if you're, again, it's the same thing as Michael Phelps having long arms or Hathor being tall as all get up. Like there are some people who are just built a little bit differently, and like that's how you grew. I mean, hell, I'm hypermobile. My connective tissue just like is falling apart as we speak, but it means that I have some advantages when it comes to mobility over a lot of other athletes. That's just kind of how I was made. I think that when you too closely focus on testing T levels and things like that, it can negatively affect people who wouldn't even be in the conversation otherwise, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. But again, to your point with runner and then getting back, it's like, do we then have to just look at what they identified as when they were born? So you said that the runner had elevated T levels, but she was born female, right? And obviously, in every sport, there is that generational talent where they have long arms, they have incredible explosive power, they're the fastest runner just without even trying. Obviously, they do try, but um, you know, at what point do we just kind of decipher between letting them run, or do we look at T levels and be like, hey, you have to be on estrogen, which I think that's kind of bullcrap. If you're going to force a female athlete that was born female to go on estrogen just because she has elevated T levels, but then again, it's like we could then test bone density, lean muscle mass, like all this other stuff, um, aside from just T levels to determine fairness, right? And I think that's how we could legitimize the sport, even because in this situation, um, with a picture during an event where Jamie and Andrea were going head to head, there was noticeable difference between Jamie and Andrea, where I think Jamie sat at least 4 inches plus taller. Probably had about 100, like 50 to 100 pounds on Andrea. Again, I could be way over exaggerating this. I do not have the numbers in front of me, but what do you think we should test to make this legitimate? Like to make sure that we could bulletproof this scenario as much as we can.
Hard question, because I'm not a medical professional. As much as I like to claim to like kind of be a medical professional, I'm not a scientist by any means. So like what are the determining factors in performance? I don't know. Like honestly, I don't know. I don't think it's like, I think it's absolutely ridiculous to be testing like VO2 max and bone density and like all of these things. Like how fast is your mitochondria replenish? Like we can't test that. That's just sport. Some people are just better. And it's like that. So I don't think sports are really meant to be fair. I think that's my thing. I don't think sports are meant to be fair. I think
Well,
some things are.
I mean, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. So,
Never cheated. Thank you very much.
yeah,
But
because
like
your
the
sport has
temptation to
rules.
run gear. Let's be super honest here. The temptation to run gear, it gets pretty strong sometimes. And I've never done it. Lord knows I can't even take creatine consistently. So like it's
Hmm.
not going to happen anytime soon for me. And like I personally wouldn't feel right
Hmm.
competing in a tested sport even if I ran a cycle like years ago. Like I that's a me thing and that's my own personal call. of like I wouldn't feel right knowing that I have done that because there are like long-term performance benefits even if you just ran like a little cycle a while ago. So even if I was like in the clear because I hadn't been on something in however many months, that's a me thing. Do I think other people shouldn't compete if they have like gone dark, run a cycle when they weren't competing and came back? Like, yeah, you're willing to do more than I am.
Hmm.
And sports aren't meant to be fair, it's athletics. You're meant to be the best.
Hmm.
So, like, I, I don't know.
Um,
Where the T level line should be or whatever, I don't know. I'm not a doctor. This is not something that I specialize in. But, like, I don't think sports are really meant to be fair.
I mean, at the end of the day, are they ever really fair? Because you
Yeah,
have
exactly.
human judging, you have human time clocks. Like, human error is very real in sports across the board. I've been pushing so hard to get timing gate systems implemented into Strongman at the local level because I just think it would cause less people to bitch um, about their time. Um, so you say that testing should just be what it is, and then at the end of the day, be a better athlete, right? But what's your opinion about kind of my perspective, so that way we could talk more about my perspective about giving these athletes, the transgender athletes specifically, their own class, their own category, to have that representation, to have that direct spotlight of, hey, this is what I can do, and this is who I am, because that's ultimately what they want, right? They want people to understand them, to get to know them, and to treat them like a human. So I think, at least for now, where the world is at right now, with everyone's opinion, I feel like this is the best possible way, where you could have these athletes showcase what they are capable of at different levels and be able to go, hey, this is who I am, come get to know me.
I hear you. And I understand how that conclusion is drawn. I do disagree with you for a couple reasons. And the first of all is just being there aren't enough people. Like we are talking about less than 1% of like the American population. Like this is such a small number of people. I think in collegiate athletes, it's like oh God, I'm trying to remember the number, but I'm pretty sure it's like sub 200 athletes, like total across all sports in the NCAA. Like this is not a lot of people. So to have competitive classes in these sports for these athletes, I just like I think that that's ridiculous. Not like again, not your perspective, but I think that with the amount of people who this actually like affects, I don't think that that could reasonably work. Because
So,
let me tell you, as an athlete who is in a class where there are not a lot of other athletes competing,
mhm,
I don't get the same experience as a lot of other athletes. And you've dealt with this as a lightweight strongman when there's like two of you guys at a comp, even if it's a big comp, and you're like, okay, like is this is even like really competitive. There's not enough people to make this like good. I've had that where I'm like, okay, I'm the only person in my weight class, or I am one of two people at nationals. I'm
mhm.
like, okay, I'm gonna get on the podium as long as I get a total because there's only two of us. Having a sport where there's no actual competition just takes so much away from the sport. I think you fit under whatever qualifications people who are way smarter than me have determined, then just like compete as men and women. I also think a lot of
So,
sports could be mixed that my personal opinion. Like I think a lot more sports could be just like a gender altogether, and I think it would make them way more entertaining.
mhm. So just to talk about this, um, typically we see people thinking that they can't be included into something, right? And the growth in women's sports over the past years, just because this has been such a big deal in the world, we've seen a great increase in participation, in growth and development, in research, in just everything across the board. I feel is on this steady increase, even getting down to just attendance. A really good example of this is the Women's Pro Hockey League. You know, they sold out stadiums in their first season, which is fantastic. Really grows the game, really grows, it gets eyes on people. At what point do we just bite the bullet and start the the spotlight and start the recognition by just going, hey, you're going to have two or three people in a weight class, and maybe it's just a, a women's transgendered and a men's transgender, just one weight class, so that way everyone competes against each other and just showcases what they could do. But let's say that someone is then watching that live stream or sees it on social media because everything is accessible on our phones. What is it to not say that maybe they could inspire someone if they had more time in the spotlight rather than being shoved into a women's or a men's class? And I guess shoved might not be the correct word for this, but being in a women's and men's class, doing very well, but then having the world kind of react like this. Maybe if it was a more positive outlook of like, hey, I have my own stage to set records and, we could go into a full legitimacy, then that could get people moving. That could get people into the gym. That could get people playing sport. Like, could get them more healthier and active. That's where I'm kind of looking at it, where my mindset is at, versus the just, oh, we'll just push them over there, because we're at a point where when this happens over and over and over again, then we have this huge debate and we cause chaos.
Yeah.
And then everyone is at each other's throat for the next month or two talking about this. So I think that this is just a good kind of point where, hey, I recognize you and I'm going to give you your own spot to showcase what you can do. And hopefully you inspire others to become better and set the standard.
Yeah. I don't know. I your idea is growing on me when you frame it that way, admittedly.
Yeah, because it's like
By any means.
at the end of the day, I got into health and fitness to make people's lives better. I'm a personal trainer slash strength coach to make people perform better, to make people live healthier. Then I got into becoming a physical therapist assistant to help them move better and to help the recovery process. Like I want people to be better, to be more active, to be healthier, to live longer. And I feel like this is kind of the only way that we can go right now, to where we can include everyone and support them in a way that they could be supported without backlash.
Yeah, I don't think you're getting to me. I don't think it's as unreasonable as I originally did.
You thought I was just gonna come here and be like, if you're a man, you're a man, you're a woman, you're a woman.
100% did, yeah.
Yeah. Which,
I appreciate your nuance.
yeah. But then it's like, then you keep the men's class legitimate, you keep the women's class legitimate, and then you give these athletes, the transgender men and women, their own stage, which is again what I'm trying to get at for our viewers and listeners, and that's why I keep repeating it.
Yeah. I still think that, like, overarchingly, I don't know if you would ever have enough athletes to make that possible. But expanding on your idea, I think expanding on that idea, and with, like, I'm a firm believer that a lot of sports could be just like ungendered and still be very competitive. I I think if that was like an opt-in league for people regardless of orientation, because like we have our non-binary baddies out there who like if they're not male or female or wherever they sit on that, like how do you want to fit them into competitive athletics as well, especially because we are often split on a gender spectrum. But like if there was a non-gender jujitsu and it was just like by weight class, like I would compete in that. I roll with men most of the time anyway. Like I don't care. And a lot of wrestling does that too. Like in high school sports, I had a lot of friends who were wrestlers who were women and they would compete against men all the time and like it doesn't matter. So I think that would provide a lot of opportunity to allow athletes to be pushed by not having an inherent gender divide in sports.
But then it goes back to what we were talking about 2 weeks ago. If you're a high level athlete, shouldn't you be pushed already?
Yeah.
Or if you're someone that wants to get better, you should have the drive to get better,
Yeah, and I'm with you.
regardless of
But I
what
think
you're
that
doing.
me being an ego lifter, as we had like thoroughly established, I think
Hmm.
the idea of me being able to fight some dude and just like demolish him, that would
Mm.
be an extra little bit of motivation for me. Like that
Yeah.
would feel good. Especially because like I know a lot of people who men and women alike who are like, like I don't understand why you fight. It's not like you could ever take on like even an average untrained dude. Whereas I think they've done some research into it, and it's like anywhere from 6 months to a year of like serious combat training, you are significantly more likely to be able to get out of like a physical altercation with someone untrained than
Mm.
otherwise, even if you are a tiny lady fighting like your standard dude.
Yeah. But
Like
then I
you're
think
a strength athlete, but you get like you having not been like fully strength training and having experience with like hockey and having to beat the crap out of people in sports like that, just like random dude versus me give it like 6 more months of actually training. Like that could theoretically be a fight that I could at least get out of safely. Got a little
so.
off topic there. I
Yeah,
don't
we
know.
did.
I don't hate the idea of a third league. I don't think there's enough athletes to make it super viable, but I do understand that it could be a way for more athletes to be able to compete and have a spotlight without receiving the same level of backlash as they do.
Right. And this is to go with OSG doing incredible things with the teen division masters and now the adapted division with Strongman. Like they are actively seeking ways to grow the sport. And I think Lynn, the director of OSG, has done a phenomenal job these past years with getting more athletes involved. And I think this is just one more avenue that he should potentially try to explore and see if there's a market for it. Because at the end of the day, I just want to see people lift heavy things, you know, and this just gives us more to watch, you know, at the end of the day. But kind of when we were talking about gear and all that stuff and all this, I do have to acknowledge a different topic. It's going to be a shout out to the 80 kilo man. Mason Cup won the world title. So he is the 80 kilo world's strongest man, and he is natty. He is natural. So it can be done, people. It can be done. Huge congratulations to Mason. I met him over in Texas. He is uh, one of the best guys that you can go up and have a conversation with. Again, my heart kind of resides in the 80s, even though I'm no longer an 80, but I will always show love to the world champion in that weight class. So just because all those guys are phenomenal.
He was at Texas when we were there,
Yeah, he
or
competed.
Americas.
Yeah, he competed at America's Strongest Man. He won Natural World's Strongest Man, I believe, last year, possibly this year. I'm sorry if you somehow find this and I got that mixed up, Mason. Um, but but yeah, and then he goes on to win World's Strongest Man in the last event too. So absolutely demolished it on the last event with the natural stone load. Killed it all weekend along with all the other homies that competed over there. So big congrats, man. Well deserved.
Is he like
Um,
actually natty though?
yeah. So Strongman,
Not even
um,
on tea.
huh?
Not even like a little bit of tea.
I, to be honest, I have no idea, but he is the most natty looking with, and his trophy reception video is the greatest. He does like the little hair flip, and he just goes, "Thank you," and then just proceeds to like hoist his world championship trophy. It is the absolute best. Um, but Natural World Strongest Man and the Natural Federation has been growing very steadily over in Europe and now in the United States with multiple qualifiers, stuff like that. Show again, giving people a platform to showcase what they're capable of. And obviously, Mason going through the natural strongman and then going into untested, obviously, doing some great work over there, and then ultimately ending on top. I think that's just something worth talking about.
Yeah, no, that's super impressive.
Yeah, it's great.
I love a close comp. Like just like winning in the last event is such like I
So,
love a close comp.
so as an athlete, I get nervous to the point where I want to almost dry heave um, going into those moments. But yeah, there is nothing more satisfying than winning it in the last event. Which, funny enough, I believe if I remember correctly, he was in a three-way tie for second going into the last event, with first obviously still in reach. Um, so again, like, show up in big moments, man, and you will be rewarded.
Yeah. That's
So,
such like a I feel like that really speaks to an athlete's mindset of being able to have that like extra little bit of dig when you really, really need it.
but yeah, you're talking the sixth event in a world championship. Like, the body is, no matter how fresh you say you are not fresh at those moments. It's being able to dig deep and really get that extra 1 to 5% more than everyone else that really sets you above, and ultimately it shows with his result. So yeah, being in the last event with like tight points sucks, especially if you're coming. Well, I don't know. Would you want to hold your own destiny, or would you want to just try to outperform? I guess you would want to hold your own destiny and just go out there and try to perform and complete the run or complete the event or lift however many kilos you have to in order to take place, versus trailing from behind and then having to kind of rely on someone else doing that.
Yeah. It definitely more like I would rather have to go up and do what I need to do rather than hoping someone else doesn't do the best they can do.
The more I started talking, the more I was like, "No, you're talking out of your ass right now."
Yeah.
so so yeah. Um, well, I think that's it for the whole controversy thing. I thought we had great discussion.
Me too. High five.
See, you were nervous.
Yeah,
You
I
were
was
nervous
nervous. Are
about
you
it.
kidding me?
And look, it wasn't even that bad.
No, it wasn't. I think that like I've had trans athletes, none of whom have ever competed because of all of the things that can go into that. But I've had trans athletes, and the amount of conversations and like heartbreak that I have seen athletes go through as they were like, yeah, so like, and huh?
I said, yeah, like, they're still a person. They still experience heartbreak in sport and stuff like that.
Yeah, my trans athlete was biologically female and transitioning to male. And I remember when he came out to me, I was like, all right, grab the other barbell then. Because they had grabbed the women's bar that we had always been using. And he like looked at me and he was like, that was the weirdest gender affirming care I think I've ever received. And I was like, you tell me you're a man, use a men's bar. I don't know what you're talking about.
See, it would have been better if he would have been like, oh, sorry, force a habit.
Yeah, but like going through and talking about the possibility of competing and what that looks like, and like, okay, like if you're running T, so like how does that change your ability to compete in this sport later? And like how do we adjust expectations and everything that goes into that? So like it is something that as much as I try to come at things from like a level head and with a lot of nuance and understanding for where a lot of different people are coming for, it is something that I hold near and dear to my heart because I have had some of my little beans who I just like, uh, I'm a
Yeah.
bleeding heart at the end of the day, and I know that.
So anyway, we haven't even got into our pet peeve of the week. Oh man. Uh um Debating about talking about this, only because I could rant for like another hour about it.
We're gonna go ahead and get into our next segment, which I'm going to gracefully call things that piss Alex off because there's a long list. And go ahead.
What really pisses me off is these people at amateur level, and even, I guess, more national and world level, international level shows, because it probably happens everywhere, is people that complain to the volunteers and the judges. Like, you actively go up there and just go, no, you're wrong and I'm right. Instead of, hey, I saw this. Why are we doing that? Because this is what people and athletes don't get until you do it. volunteering is hard. It is harder than being an athlete. It is harder than being a coach at a comp. You are there at the butt crack of dawn. You don't go until the sun goes down. Like you are putting in 12-hour days of free labor. Um, Sometimes even longer, depending on how well the comp ran. And, recently at a comp, I volunteered, and it was just nonstop from a few people of just, no, you're wrong. No, like, I drove all the way from here to do that. Like, it's not my fault that you show up an hour early for weigh-ins and I tell you you can't weigh in and then you get mad at me. Especially when you're not that dehydrated, even though you tell me that you're dehydrated. Because you're still able to throw fit. If you were very dehydrated, you would just suck it up and go sit. I was going to say an F word, but I saved you from that. Um, um, if you were dehydrated, you would just go sit down and just suck it up and deal with it. Because I know I've been in that position where I'm not in any way, shape, or form ready to have an argument or fight. I barely want to tolerate people when I'm that dehydrated.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. For this particular person too, and this is going to be a very venting portion of this episode. Um, so I hope people find enjoyment out of my venting. Um, yeah, buckle up. This guy claims that it's not his first Strawman show, and then he proceeds to ask us why we have to load his side bag over our yoke height after carrying a yoke 25 feet down and back. And then I'm just like, this is standard practice, man. What have you done? And then he's just throwing a little tiff about having to do that and setting his yoke height one hole lower than what it normally is. And I'm just like, you don't have to be here at the end of the day. You cannot compete and make my life easier. Like, as volunteers, we don't care how many athletes there are. We care about getting people home. So if we have to adjust the throwing apparatus so that way we could get two events rolling at the same time, we're going to do that regardless of if it's on a slant or anything like that. Um, I and I'm sorry. And then the best part is, um, when you're judging and you're reading the order and they don't know the rules of the comp that was said in the rules meeting of how the last event is in reverse order of the overall standing, and you come up to me complaining about the order, and then I just tell you I'm the clipboard guy. They gave me the list. I have no idea how you've done the rest of the day up until this moment. Mainly because I don't care. Um, and then proceeds to hold up the comp that I am trying to get done in a very timely manner, along with my other partners and brothers and sisters and volunteers. So that way we could all go home before 9 o'clock. And you have to run to the scorer's table, only to be told that I was right and you were wrong. Um, which love that. Um, and then proceed to zero the event. Zeroes the event, dropping F bombs in the middle of his run, which, if you're dropping F bombs in the middle of your run and you're still on the first Atlas stone that you haven't loaded yet, you're probably not doing that well. And you should just walk away before you cause any more harm to your ego. Um, and then proceed to have time run out, blame the stone, and then kick it as you're walking away as if that's going to do anything for you. You are my least favorite human being, by the way. Um, if you act like that at shows, because I know when I compete, I show the judges and the volunteers the utmost respect because they are sacrificing their time, money, and potentially even injuring. I've seen volunteers get weights dropped on their feet and had to get rushed to the hospital before. Like stuff happens, and that same volunteer, which is a really nice lady that is one of the core members of volunteers that travels across the country for Strongman Corp, she was back as soon as she was able to stand up on her feet. And I'm pretty sure that was the next day because it's like, we're at the national level of event. We got to get moving. So it just be nice. Be nice to the volunteers. They have the hardest job. It's their job to give you the place to showcase what you're capable of, not they're a place to just listen to you bitch and complain the entire day. So
Yeah.
please, and it's the same thing that I tell our athletes too, which is, hey, be calm, cool, and collected. Strawman is very much a sport that could change on the fly. I'm literally doing a comp not this weekend, but the following, and I'm still getting rule changes on it. Um, you just go with the flow. So, because at the end of the day, everyone has to deal with the same rule change.
Yeah.
So, because it's like coming from weightlifting, you don't really interact with the volunteers that much. Maybe not even the judges, because you just come up, do your lift, and walk backstage, and then do that for 5 more times in the day, and then you're done.
Yeah. As an athlete, you never have to speak to or interact with anyone. Like you get your down call from your front judge, and that's it. I have a few standards and rules that I hold for myself and I try and hold for my athletes as well, which is like after every lift, make or miss, I try and thank my judges.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I'm straight at center judge and just like there's a little like hands together and bow. I don't know why that's what I do, but that's just like what I do. It's just like a show of appreciation. Like, thank you for being here. And then being a coach, your coach interacts with people more because you have your table going. And the table can be a very stressful thing for the people running it and also for the coaches. And I admittedly like to make the table as difficult for other coaches as possible when I have athletes competing because I'm that kind of a coach. I like to play the game. It's a
Yeah.
chess match for coaches. Athletes shouldn't be concerned with it in the slightest. But as a coach, it's a chess match and I have fun.
Yeah.
Um, but like even then, like you usually just stand there and you're like, hey, I'm gonna change this a couple more times, but just like put this in for now. And they're like, okay. And then they'll put in the next one and they're like, okay, you have one more. They have to actually take this one. And I was like, they will.
Psych.
Okay, go. No, because you have 30 seconds to put in that
Yeah.
next athlete's their next jump or like to change it, and you get a couple changes per attempt. So like if you want to wait and you want to like give your athlete more rest by waiting as long as possible, or you want to make some other athlete go just like super quick, you just make those adjustments real fast. And I think it's fun for me as a coach. And every coach, not every, most coaches play the game. I think most good coaches who like enjoy that side of the sport, they play the game. And most coaches I know play the game. Some of them will just be like, these are my athletes' jumps and this is what we're doing. And like, that's fine and dandy. But most coaches play the game and you can't get mad at coaches for playing the game. I've been
Yeah.
cussed out for playing the game, which I think is super fun because an athlete's coaches, there were 4 coaches to this one athlete who was going against in the same session as one of mine. And this was at, I think it was AO finals. I think it was AO finals. They were in the same session. I'm like messing with my athletes' jumps, doing what you do. And their coaches just weren't paying attention. They're like, yeah, it was like got like 5 kilos. So they're over there talking to someone else who just like walked up and said hi, not paying attention the slightest. Their athlete is still like locked in, just like waiting to be told to go. And they look up and their athlete has like 15 seconds to take the lift because they weren't paying attention. And I changed my athlete's attempt.
Yeah.
That's on you for not paying attention. They came up and they're like, thank you so much for that. And I was like,
You're welcome.
you can't blame me because you dropped the ball as a coach. Own up to it. I've
Yeah.
made mistakes as a coach. And when I did, I walked up to my athlete, looked her in the eye, and was like, I messed up.
Yeah.
Like, I am so sorry.
Yeah.
I messed up. And that is on me. I know that this wasn't the best you could do. And it's not because of you at all. It's because I made a mistake here. And I've done that. And it sucks having to swallow your pride. But I'm not going to go blaming someone else because I was distracted. Like, no, that's stupid.
No. But just to kind of get away from the coaches stuff, have you ever seen, I guess this would be the number one reason that pops in my head, but the loaders misloading a bar at like a local meet, most likely, and then the athlete getting pissed at the loader.
See, weightlifting is pretty darn good about that.
I mean, yeah, you guys have colors. You just go, oh,
everything
little
is
blue,
color coded.
little blue,
Yeah,
big
it's all
blue.
color coded, and it pops up on the screen what colors need to be on the bar. You don't even have to know how to do the math. the screen does it all, and there's colors. So it'll be like even up on a little computer, and you'll see like what one side of the bar should look like, and it'll just do it all for you and put the collar on the end. And like I've seen it, like I've seen loaders mess up for a sec, and I've gone up and been like, hey, that's supposed to be 45 kilos. That's 50 kilos because of the colors. And they're like, 1 sec. And then they just like reload it again. And like, that's fine. Again, you should be paying attention as a coach. That happened at a powerlifting meet. That happened at a powerlifting meet. Who was I handling?
Hmm.
I don't
Uh,
remember who I was handling, but I
yeah.
distinctly remember that they misloaded the bar for the attempt that I had given them. I had given them the number. They had told it to the table wrong. So the table showed, like, the bar was loaded to what the screen showed, but that wasn't the number I had given the clipboard person, whose job it is to go and tell the table what to put in. And I, like, stopped and I was like, don't take that. Went up to the clipboard person. I was like, hey, look at their last attempt. What number did I tell you? Because, like, I wanted to make sure that I didn't mess up. And they're like, this. And I was like, this is this. And they're like, oh, shoot. So, like, they went over to the table and they're like, oh, sorry, misload. And then, like, adjusted it real quick.
Mm.
That's why you gotta be on your game. Because, like, mistakes happen. But, like, it's a mistake. You don't get pissed off at the volunteers because, like, there is so much going on and sometimes mistakes happen. It happened at your first nationals that I handled. They didn't
What
count
event?
your score right in one of the events.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was terrified to go up to the table because I was like, I don't want to be that guy. Like, I don't want to be that guy. I know that they are overwhelmed. I know there's a lot going on. So I waited until after the entire event was over and they were like going between things. There were athletes actively competing. It's like, this is probably the best time to approach. And I went up and I was like, hey, I was looking at the online score sheet, which is what they were updating. It says this for my athlete. He placed this. Am I misreading this? And like I just framed it as like a question of am I misreading this? I'm not blaming you for anything. There's no
Yeah.
accusation happening here. It's a like am I not understanding and could you please explain this to me? And they
Mm.
went, shoot, yeah, no, that's our bad. We totally marked that wrong. There's two Alexes and like switched the thing and like that was it.
Mm.
But like I think that there is a way to approach that where you're not coming off of like a hey, you up. It was just like a hey, I'm not understanding what's happening here. Can you clarify?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I think athletes that have coaches present should not be allowed to, to dispute their own thing. And like that, it's now become so apparent in Strawman to where they have a rule. You have to have video evidence now. And if you just show them the video of like, hey, I got counted for 8 reps and you only gave me 7, I mean, that could be the difference of a lot of points. But I think the video evidence thing, because everyone records their events.
A lot of them are streamed anyway, so you back up a couple minutes in a live stream and you can probably see it.
Yeah, my biggest thing, and especially when I'm judging, um, is I go up to my lane that I'm running and I show them the standard of like, hey, if you split jerk, I need your feet together. If your feet are not together, you are not getting a down call. If you have a physical limitation of a previous bicep tear or a tricep injury that you can't fully extend your elbow, speak now or forever hold your peace because you will have to be fully locked out. And then I think that kind of helps them prepare, like, oh, this guy is going to be tough. Because I asked the promoters of the comp, I go, how strict can I be? And then they go, I want people to hate you. Okay, I'm gonna have people hate me. Um, So yeah, but I think for me, at the end of a competition day, I always try to fist bump my judge, especially after the last event if we stuck with the same judge. And then if we're hanging out after and everyone's done, I try to go around to as many volunteers as I can and just thank them. Because being at competitions for, from basically Wednesday to Sunday suck. You know, from the athlete, from the coach. Now imagine being a volunteer that has to load every single day. They're getting in a full workout, because I know I'm wrecked after a day of volunteering. Like I am. sitting on the couch, not moving. Um, and it's just everything hurts after that.
Yeah. I
So,
know that's one of the complaints that I've heard from a lot of loaders when it comes to USPA nationals
mhm,
is that people who are competing and volunteering, they still make them load before the day they compete. And they're like, how the heck am I supposed to be competing well at nationals? Like have your athletes who or your loaders who aren't competing take like day 1 and
mhm.
then let us add in after we've done our actual comp. But I for whatever reason, and I'm not involved with USPA in the slightest, I just am good friends with a number of people who've volunteered and loaded for them. That's like a pretty consistent complaint I've heard of like they won't compete at nationals because they're going to be volunteering and they're like, well, there's no point in competing if I'm going to be so trash that I've already loaded for 3 days
Yeah.
and like that's just not worth it.
Um, and then you have these great human beings like my boy David Harrison. Um,
I love that guy.
goes to OSG, puts up the performance of a lifetime in the frame carry and the sandbag steeplechase. You know, super happy for him to just go experience it and compete and hang out with all the guys. Doesn't make the finals, but then is loading and volunteering the day of the finals for people. And I'm just like, it doesn't get any better than that, man. Like this guy is, he probably put his body through hell the first 2 days, first four events of the comp, and then just puts on the blue volunteer shirt, and then next thing you know, he's on the other side of the stone platform catching stones, so that way they don't go messing up the floor and they fall on the bag.
Yeah.
So,
David Harrison is good people, like through and through.
oh
I know
yeah.
a lot of sports have like good people in them, and I think that like genuinely David Harrison is one of them for me. He like absolutely just loves the sport of strongman and you can see it in the way that he like it is in action more than anything. From building the hoist and doing all of that, he's like working on a lot of these big comps. He does comps as much as possible. He is like always has a good attitude. I met him
Mhm.
for the first time at that first nationals we went to in Erie, and I was like, okay, this guy is just happy to be here. Like he does not care. Like he still wants to do well and he is
Mhm.
performing and he is competing, but he is like genuinely just happy to have made it that far. And that
Mhm.
is such like a I love to see that. And then at the Arnold, he was there to help with a bunch of stuff and all of that was just like this past year the Arnold was a bit of a kerfuffle, which I think we've discussed a good deal already.
That's a
But
good way to
even
put
through
it.
all of that, he was just like happy to be there. And to the point where he put me on a jolly and like rolled me across the entire thing because I was like, would you be game? And he was like, hop on. Let's go. So I didn't
Yeah.
feel like walking. Like there was no reason for it. It's just, he is just good people through and through. And
Oh
like,
yeah.
I love that.
And then it's like I told people because we had one of our athletes compete against him at this past regionals. I go, if there is a oddball event where it's like a Zercher carry or a duck walk, even loading and like throwing, don't count this man out. And then my boy goes out there for the second event. It's a frame carry. It's a 600-pound frame carry for, I think it was 30 feet down and back. I don't really know the length of the lane because I wasn't there, unfortunately. But um, my dude puts up a top 20. He got 17th in the world at the frame carry. Like, I saw that and I was like, I don't care who won the event. He finished the frame. So many great athletes didn't even finish the frame. And I just thought, like, okay, that's the performance of a weekend.
Yeah.
Like, I could stop watching. I don't care who wins. But yeah,
That's awesome. I know he was debating on whether to go or not. I'm glad that he went and I'm glad that he like got to do the whole thing because
yeah.
that's such a fun time and that man deserves it.
Oh yeah, for sure. For someone that's been involved in the sport, like sure there's a big debate amongst the athletes that you have to earn your spot, and if you take a spot away from someone else, then you're just not growing the sport. Like, man, F all them people. Like, who cares? Just go have fun.
Yeah.
Go experience it. It's a you This is what I tell people. I go, you never know when you're going to be able to come back. So enjoy the moment as much as you can, right? Because getting to these high level competitions is hard. I think Strongman has one of the hardest qualification processes out of a lot of the strength sports. And that's because you have to win, you have to do well. And it's like, depending on how many athletes you have, it's like if you have four or less, you have to win. And then depending on what comp you do, and if you're the only athlete, you can't zero. So like there is still pressure to be put on. And then obviously I think the more athletes you have, the easier time that you have. I say that with a grain of salt because it's like now you have more competition, but then you could get podium, second or third, sometimes even fourth, and still get your invite, which is what you're there for. But it's like the comp that I'm doing next weekend. I was the only 90 kilo athlete to sign up. I'm getting put up with 105 athletes. And I just gotta, put my little compression shorts on and my little grip shirt and tie my belt and just say, okay, I gotta go. So it'll be it'll be tough. But um but again, it's go experience the events, go experience the comps. Like
Look,
you have
I'm a firm believer. If you got the invite, you earned it.
in
Like,
white.
yeah, fuck you. If you got the invite, you earned it. Like, whatever, I know people go back and forth, and I think that that is one of the things that is difficult with Strongman is that the qualification process for big comps, it's weird. And weird is the best I got. Like powerlifting, there are totals and like a number of comps that you have to have done. Weightlifting, you have like a 1 year window to meet a certain total, and like it's really really straightforward. When it
Mhm.
comes to like things like nationals, when you get to the Team USA and Olympic level and all of that, it's different. When you get to like the international comps, there's a whole other level of everything that goes into that. But for the most part, when it comes to national championship and all of that, you know exactly what you need to do. It's like, hey, I have to hit this total at a sanctioned comp within this many months, and you're good to go.
Mhm.
Strongman is like, well, if you place, and depending on how many people were there, and how heavy were the events, and did you zero any of the events, and there's just like a smorgasbord of ifs.
Yeah. But it's like you can't really put totals on our stuff because we have so many different style of events. So it's like, how do you put a total on a frame carry for
Yeah,
time? Like
yeah.
everyone
Yeah,
does
and
the
like the
same weight.
weights vary at basically every comp. The equipment varies. Even like
Yeah.
an 18-inch deadlift is the 18-inch deadlift on like a mammoth bar or is on an axle because you're gonna get wildly different numbers if you're doing those. Like I understand that strongman is difficult to get like consistent standards of like here's how you qualify because of that.
But I think it has gotten better because now at least you could go on the website and look up the route you need to take and how many people need to be there. And there's clear cut rules of how you need to qualify versus me going up to the promoter of the comp that I'm trying to get at and he just goes, "Well, you need to impress me." What does that entail? Me trying to impress you? Do I need to put up like 20 reps on this 220 log, or like do I just need to win? Do I like what? Tell me how I need to impress you so that way I know the standard instead of me just exiting that conversation of like, well, that went nowhere. So, yeah, but I think this is a good stopping point. What do you think?
Agree. This
Okay.
was a 100% Strongman episode.
100%. And I love it. So,
Yes.
so to end, I guess drop a comment on this episode. Tell us your thoughts, your opinions. We might talk about it on the next episode. We might just let this one burn under a bridge. I have no clue. Um, so be sure to like, comment, subscribe. We are on Spotify, YouTube. You can find us on social media. Between two barbells, SPC, on Instagram and TikTok, right? I never do the outro, so
Between Two Barbells PC for pod.
PC. Oh, I thought it was SPC.
Barbells
Barbells.
PC.
Oh, I kind of got it right. I got it right, just a different route. It's
It's
like when
between
you
Two
show your
Barbells
math teacher.
PC on Instagram and TikTok, or you can like, subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcast.
Cool.
Meowdies.
What she said.
Peace out, big dog.
Bye.